Just let people join. So I think that looks good. We are about almost 50 people. So a warm welcome from my side. This is track A of the fall presentation, or the Sugar Plus fall presentation this year. My name is Niels Feldmann, and I am a teaching team member at KIT in Karlsruhe, and also a teaching team member of the Sugar Network. And I will be your facilitator today. What we will do is we will go through presentations of the teams. Each presentation is about 7 minutes long, and then we have like 3, 4, 5 minutes for quick questions and answers. If you want to ask any kind of question, please post them in the session chat because the stage is limited to those people who can present, so the teams presenting here and me facilitating. So any kind of question that you have, please post them in the chat and I will be informed and I can ask the team directly what your question is. With this, I would like to get started and I would like to ask the first team to get prepared and get on stage. Oh yes, they are already arriving. So the first team that we are expecting here on stage is Team Takeda. Takeda is a pharmaceutical company based in Japan. And they challenged a team of students from the Hasso-Plattner Institute in Potsdam, as well as the Kyoto Institute of Technology, the other KIT, in Japan. A warm welcome, and the stage is yours.
Okay. I'm sorry. Okay, is my screen visible? Are you able to see my screen yet?
But I think it sometimes takes a few seconds.
Okay. Because I can hear you, I cannot see you, so please let me know.
We don't see your screen yet. We just see the video.
Okay, let me try this then. Maybe now?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, confirm, Minagi.
Let's start. Can you hear me? What? Can you hear me? Yes, welcome to the full presentation of Team Bushido. We are students from HPI and KIT from 5 different countries and work together with Takeda. Takeda is Asia's leading pharmaceutical company with a long tradition. We are happy to welcome some members of our Takeda team here today. We know it's already validated in Japan, so thank you for joining. And can you guess what is this number? 4 million plus persons suffered from diagnosed mental disorders in Japan. Undiagnosed cases are likely to be much higher. They are the people we are working to help, because our challenge is how might we sense and prevent mental disorders through networks of humans and machines. To understand the challenge, we first need to understand what mental disorders are and what sensing and prevent them means. Mental disorders are behavioral or mental patterns that cause significant distress. It's important to understand that mental disorders are more than just feeling sad. The life of nearly every affected person we talk to has been seriously, negatively impacted by their mental disorders. We have learned that there are great differences between countries in regards to the willingness to speak about mental disorders. The people we talked to in Germany and the US were surprisingly willing and open to talk. In Japan, talking about mental disorders is a more complicated issue. We think this is due to the fact that Japanese people worry a lot about others with your own trouble. Next, by sensing, we mean detecting mental disorders as early as possible. We do not aim to diagnose. There are many potential causes for mental disorders, many of whom we cannot influence. Therefore, we do not target to keep mental disorders from happening at all. We instead target to intervene as early as possible and keep symptoms from becoming worse. So we interviewed experts, affected persons, and their close contact to gain an understanding of how people already sense and work to prevent mental disorders. Additionally, we talked to individuals from Japan to understand more about the specific situation in Japan. From the insights we gathered, we built two personas.
So meet Joe. He's a young college student staying away from home for education in a foreign land. He's going through this series of feeling tired, exhausted, frequent headaches. All of his symptoms he ignores and blames to his irregular eating and sleeping habits. His symptoms get so worse that Joe feels. Then he goes to a doctor. The doctor diagnoses him with depression and anxiety, a diagnosis that takes Joe and his family by surprise because it would be Joe. Now, to help Joe, we want him to be more self-aware. We want him to give him a power to bring a change in his habits. And we realized from our research that self-reflection is a valuable tool for this. Self-reflection is usually done by maintaining a diary. But from our interviews, we realized that people with depression and anxieties often find it hard to maintain diary. So comes the idea of a reflection assistant, our smart interactive everyday device. So this could be a smart interactive everyday device that Joe uses, and it will ask some self-reflection in the morning and evenings, which will be recorded, and Joe can access them at any point. These responses can also be analyzed by AI analysis, the feedback of which can be given to Joe to reflect on his mental well-being. We tested our reflection assistant prototypes. And we tested it, and our first assumption that we tested was how comfortable were. The response was not too bad. As far as data privacy is mentioned, people were open to this idea. The second assumption we tested was what was their thought, which other object did they think would they prefer if they had. Were very varied. What was common is people like the flexibility given by smart watches and smartphones. But yes, some also said that with plants, they feel a sense of calmness when they speak to plants. So that is an interesting area for us. So yes. Moving forward to our next persona, Nobuko. She's a young woman with no prior history of mental illness, but after her first pregnancy, she is diagnosed with postpartum depression. Now, Nobuko was looking forward. She is born, she realizes that she's not able to bond with a child as she expected to. And this feeling just makes her go through the series of mom guilt, which just makes the symptoms of postpartum worse. And what is worse is she does not see support that she's. Nobuko, we decided to first target in help her visualizing her interactions with the child. Again, on the concept of self-awareness, we designed it would be a variable, a baby variable, that would monitor interactions of the baby and the parents. It will be a baby variable that can be clipped onto baby clothes and baby accessories. It would detect and record would be sent out to the parents' smart watches or digital device through a downloadable app. These interactions can be visualized as a graph on a daily or weekly basis. With young families was how comfortable were they with the idea of a baby variable, and the response was they were very welcoming as far as it did not harm the baby. The second assumption that we what are their thoughts on the intrusion of AI to monitor their interactions with their baby? To this, one mother actually said that in this situation, she would actually expect her mom instincts to kick in and help her make judgment on her interactions and help her build. So with that, I would like to thank you all for your attention. I think with our two prototypes, we are onto something, and I hope that continued teamwork and support from Takeda by winter presentation, we come with a good working prototype with y'all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Team Takeda, and thanks for sharing this meaningful challenge with us. So I would say, please, audience, give them a big hand of applause. Use your emojis, whatever you want to use to show your emotions. And also, please feel free to, yes, here we go. If you have any questions to the team, we have room for probably 1 or 2 questions, so please also post them to the chat box. And our chat facilitator, Carolyn, who's working here in the background, she will funnel it to me, and I can ask the team. Maybe to get started with a little question until everybody is ready, what was the most surprising learning for you that you had so far in your project?
I would present it as an interesting learning. I think stigma in most of the countries, but for us, what we learned is in Japan, more than stigma, there's a hesitation to speak about it. And this is what Minagi said. There is this whole concept where they sense the air, they do not wish to burden their feelings on others. So people hold back on their emotions. So this was an interesting observation for us as compared to other countries, yes.
I see a question coming in from Sushi, from KIT in Japan. And he is asking, what were some of the scratched ideas that did not work so far?
We have a couple of ideas. We had many ideas, and one of the very interesting one, which we have not tested extensively, is in Lincoln Lab, we wish to build a prototype which could help us engage parents in a more interactive communication, because often we realize from our interview with communication, and we are working on building, it's not yet a scratch, continue working on it, include it as a functionality in Lincoln Lab. But yeah, probably I would think of that. Maybe Minagi has another to
add. We had the other idea, we didn't present it, and I try it on that. Then I asked my friend, but my friend is not depression, so it is not work as I thought. Then I want to try to find the depressed people to try it. So, yes,
we have a few seconds left. So one question towards you. Is there anything that the audience can help you with? So is there anything that you said, oh, now that we have about 60 people here in the room, can they help you in any way? And in the meantime, I'd like to ask Team BLM to get ready on stage. Sorry.
I think we are always looking for very personal input, because of what we would wish is, especially if anybody give us inputs from us, and to build up on it, be very welcoming for us.
Okay. So thank you very much, and all good luck to you for the rest of your project.
Thank you.
And then I would like to welcome Team BLM, Badisches Landesmuseum. This is a collaboration between the KIT, the other KIT, our KIT in Germany, in Karlsruhe, and the Warsaw University of Technology. And they are talking about the future of museums. So the stage is yours.
Thank you, Niels. I'd like to start with a question. And everyone who agrees, please write a 1 in the chat, and everyone who disagrees, a 0. Who regularly reads the news and discusses current topics with other people? Okay, quite a lot of 1s. Now I have one more question. Who has ever done something like this in a museum context? Okay, seems like there's a big difference. But why? If we think about it a little longer, don't the two topics actually fit together very well? And exactly this gap is the challenge of our project. We're Finn and Agata from the KIT and Warsaw University, and we are the team Badisches Landesmuseum. Let's take a look at the core of our challenge. How might we create an engaging digital platform which is present in our everyday lives to interact with each other and to learn, discuss, and co-create together? When I think about discussions, I think of people raging in comment sections on the internet who express themselves freely and extensively and interact with random strangers. The willingness to discuss and interact with people has increased through digitalization. Why can't we translate these potentials onto a museum's context? Things we started looking into were questions like, what actually makes interaction attractive? Why does someone do things he actually doesn't have to do? For example, being active in his local sports club. How can we make a digital experience feel like a visit to IKEA? But for who are we actually designing the solution? Let's take a look at our target group. With our challenge, we received 3 target groups that we were supposed to take a closer look at: young retirees, young families, and students. It doesn't take long to realize that these groups seem very diverse. Interesting enough, we identified several linkages between the different target groups. But now let's take a more detailed look at one of our personas. We would like you to meet our student, Searching Sarah.
Hey, I'm Sarah. I'm 20 years old and I just started my bachelor in sports science. I still live at home with my parents, but also earn my own money by waiting tables at a local cafe.
Great to meet you, Sarah. Tell us a few things about your life. How does a typical Friday night look like for you?
Social interaction is really important to me. In general, I really enjoy having my friends around me. Nevertheless, I also need time for myself where I can rest, for example, watching Netflix.
Are there any things that you're particularly interested in?
Well, if there's something that really interests me, I devote all my energy towards it. For example, in Corona times, I just learned how to bake my own bread. However, I often feel that I don't get the recognition I would wish from others. Also, my parents aren't that happy with my studies.
Wow, and you're still confident in your path and seem to know what you want.
No, not at all, to be honest. I feel that I haven't really found my path in life yet. Thinking about this makes me pretty nervous.
Thank you, Sarah, for your honest answers. So we all met Sarah, and there are 3 things which we find remarkable. She really enjoys having her friends around her. She hasn't really found her path in life yet, and she doesn't get the recognition she wishes. So let's look at the underlying needs from these statements. We can identify 3 key needs. First of all, a sense of belonging. Sarah needs social interaction and wants to have the feeling that she is part of a group or a community. Whatever this group might be, the feeling of belonging is important. Secondly, Sarah has a certain need of guidance and orientation. This makes her curious concerning new input, and she constantly tries out different things as Sarah is still looking for a purpose in her later life. By doing this, she is trying to overcome the resulting feeling of insecurity. And lastly, being valued and accepted. For Sarah, receiving recognition from her surrounding, for example, her parents, is very important. She needs to feel heard and valued by her friends and society in general. Receiving this recognition encourages Sarah in her undertaking. Now that you all have a rough overview over the key needs of Sarah, I would like to present to you one of our prototypes which focuses on the need of being valued and accepted. This is our prototype, Club to Be, LM. It's a digital platform which consists of different modules that provide you with courses related to a certain topic. For example, food waste and kombucha. All modules consist of 3 different kinds of courses: activities, theory blocks, and interactive parts. The core idea of the platform is that everyone can contribute content to the micro courses to get recognition for what he or she is good in. The BLM organizes the platform, advertises, and helps create content. Additionally, the BLM cooperates with celebrities and experts to design and create modules. For example, Jamie Oliver offers a course, Waste Reduction Recipes. The BLM provides facts about ancient food preservation, and the scientist gives input about healthy nutrition. If you complete 80% of the module, you receive a micro degree on your profile showing that you accomplished the module. Everyone has a profile with demographics, interests, your accomplished micro degrees, and people you follow. so that you can see which classes and modules they created. The system creates smart links between different modules and recommends further modules and courses. While focusing on the key need of being valued and accepted, we discovered that the other key needs of Sarah are also tackled in a certain way. Now that you saw a prototype, you could get the feeling that it might only focus on the needs of Sarah. But we discovered that 3 of the 4 key needs of Sarah are also the key needs of other target groups. The underlying needs are just reflected through other wishes. For example, the young retiree doesn't want to fall in the retirement hole and remain a valuable part of society. The young mother feels the same way. She doesn't want to be seen as the mom, but also as an individual with her own relevant wishes. And Sarah? Sarah wants to be taken serious for her studies, skills, and interests. However, we have also realized that we might need to shift our focus on our target groups. During our interviews, we found out that we might take additional target groups into consideration. For example, the mid-50-year-olds who finally have time as the kids are out of the house, while other stakeholders like toddlers and the young families and digitally reluctant retirees may lose our focus. Another realization we made after a cycle was that we tend to focus too strongly on solutions for highly educated people. We have to focus stronger on the wide society in our next steps. And hopefully we can talk more about how that went at the winter presentation. But for now, we want to give you one key message on the way. If you're asking yourself right now why the word museum hasn't popped up in the last 6 minutes, then you completely understood what we are trying to achieve, which is to radically rethink the concept of a museum. Thank you to the Badisches Landesmuseum for the support and to you all for listening today.
Thank you very much, Team BLM, and also to the audience, give them a big applause, please. And if you have any kind of questions towards the team, there's probably room for 1 or 2. So please also post them into the chat. And Team Rohde Schwarz, you can also already make yourself ready to enter stage. So until everybody's ready and posts any kind of question, I have a question towards you. Was there any kind of assumption that you had when you entered the challenge that was already proven wrong?
So there have been some. So lots of things about museums, and we had the typical view on a museum that it's a place to visit just exhibitions and so on. And then we found that there are so many different kinds of, and there's such a big variety. It's quite cool, yeah. And so now our challenge is so far away from a traditional museum that is quite awesome.
Sushi is asking again. By radically going away from a museum, are you running towards an online course platform like Udacity, Coursera, etc.?
It's an idea of us, so it's not that far away. We were thinking about EDX, so more non-commercial version maybe, but there's lots of ideas. The platform is in between YouTube, in between EDX, Udemy, some open collaboration stuff. It's going just in this direction where people are interacting and engaging. So not the way is already signed.
Thank you very much, and again a big applause. And you, at least your liaisons, will see you in the closed session later. So thank you very much, and all good luck for your rest of the challenge. And now we are welcoming Team Rohde Schwarz on stage. I see Chantal already, and I guess Paul should join as well.
Yes.
All right. So give him a here. No, Chris is here. Hello, Chris. Are we missing Paul, or is Paul not entering the stage?
This is Paul. I guess they're just using a shared access.
Oh, okay, shared access. Okay, fair. All right. So, welcome Team Rohde Schwarz. Rohde Schwarz project is a collaboration between the Hasse-Plattner Institute in Potsdam and the Linköping University in Sweden. And they are working on a challenge from Rohde Schwarz, an electronics company. And you will tell us more about what exactly your challenge is this year. The stage is yours. Thank you.
President Trump is a total and complete dipshit. Now, you see, I would never say these things. Someone else would.
Okay, I guess we can start. Paul, are you there?
This was a deepfake, and it probably fooled millions when BuzzFeed posted it on YouTube last year. At the beginning of this semester, Rohde Schwarz tasked us with a challenge to ensure the authenticity of media in an age governed by such fakes. Today, we want to talk about the story of two very particular, very simple ideas to solve it. But let's take a step back first. Throughout history, the human brain has evolved to rely on and believe in what it sees. Emergent technologies such as deepfakes leverage this primal wiring to catch us off guard. Thus, detection alone might not be enough. So we look to users, customers, and industry experts. Of the wide variety of people involved, we first wanted to start with those targeted directly by fake media. The ones fighting on the front lines of corporate communication, PR managers. They were aware of its existence, but totally oblivious to the threat posed by fake media. They consistently underestimated how far the technology has come already and how fast it is progressing. Let's talk about voice cloning.
That would be a horror scenario, but something like this has not happened yet and hopefully will never happen.
As you might imagine, this originally wasn't by Donald Trump, but a high-ranking PR manager. But it's the experts that knew this, and it's also the case that not just humans, us humans, are having problems detecting these fakes. The automated approaches are struggling too. These detectors are most often pieces of artificial intelligence trained to detect between what's real and fake. The fakers, however, can use them to train their models too. So this leads to an arms race that, given the sheer amount of fake technology out there, doesn't look like it's going to be won by the good guys. Thus, the experts were utterly afraid of a future dominated by the erosion of all trust in media. This goes to show the stark contrast between the reality users perceive today and the future experts describe for tomorrow. Still, even today, multimedia monitoring tools, social media monitoring tools, are used by PR managers. These are, however, only focused on text currently. So if the faked face of an executive came up, somewhere compromising, you might not be able to tell until it's too late. Thus, when it came to ideation, we wanted to focus on building on what was already there and really thought about what we could learn from that. So we wanted to adapt this to faked multimedia content, taking in pictures and audio samples as well. We want to enable PR managers to search not just based on keywords, but also on the faces and voices of their people. The technology behind this is surprisingly straightforward. Even simple facial recognition, running significantly faster than real time, can achieve astonishing accuracy on both real and fake media. For the voice recognition, this sadly appears to be a lot harder. However, when we showed a wireframe of what such a system might look like to potential users, they surprised us once more. They clearly wanted to use it, but for totally different reasons. They thought of protecting their company against, for example, leaks from internal company meetings, not so much the fake media. We take away that such solutions might be bought for reasons relevant today, but used in the future for its deepfake readiness. Still, these solutions only react to a problem that persists. And so we have to go to the source and really look at where this becomes a problem in the first place, to the other side of the screen, the consumer.
By sharing content online, the media consumers contribute to the rapid acceleration of fake news. And in most of the cases, they're not even aware that in the moment of spreading, they become part of the problem. Therefore, we see the prevention of spreading as a critical part of the problem too. That is why we want to introduce our media consumers here. Because along our journey, we have identified multiple personas, each with individual character traits. However, we discovered one outstanding characteristic all those groups had in common. They do not trust in media anymore. Out of the 36 user interviews, the Skim News represented 12 of them, forming our majority group. Those people are quite aware of the problem of fake media, but they do not have time to fact check. Let us take Mary here as a good example. She uses YouTube regularly to inform and educate herself. Despite her awareness of fake media, she could still share fake content because she would not recognize it as such. That is why we want to help Mary. We want to make sure that she's provided with verified content by a system she can trust in. Thereby, two things are actually important for her. First, Mary needs to trust in the source because she does not want to build her opinion upon false news. And secondly, she needs to trust in the verifier because otherwise the verification would have no meaning to her. Taking Mary's needs seriously, we created a simple prototype to observe the behavior of people that are like Mary. Our goal was to find out if the test persons would value the verification certificates as trustworthy and how they shape people's course of action. Even if we only tested this prototype on a small scale, we gained some interesting insights. The test persons took the warning quite seriously, and in all cases, they preferred the original source. However, they would have wished for more details on the verifier's identity. Now it is time to converge both of the perspectives together. As we see it, the interwoven relationship between technology and human is what makes our challenge so interesting. The target, here the publisher of media, and the consumer encounter fakes on the platforms quite differently. While the user scales up the problem, the target experiences the full impact of the fakes in form of exposure or even extortion. To protect the source, the first prototype we showed you today can help us to detect fake media content using an extended version of a multimedia monitoring tool. The second prototype targets the consumer's awareness of manipulated content and gives them a choice. As you might have already noticed, there's a third player up there that has not reached our center of attention yet, the fake content creator. And in the upcoming weeks, we would like to learn more about the motives and the technology that drives the fake creation business. It is not said that those prototypes we presented are the most promising ones, yet they highlight the strong correlation between technology and human. Especially with regard to our deep forest prototype, we direct our efforts to the areas of filter bubbles, fine arts, or private communication on a corporate as well as on the individual level. At this point, we also want to thank our corporate partner, Rohde Schwarz, for supporting us, and we're excited for whatever the fake media universe still holds for us. And we hope you are too. Thank you.
Thanks so much, team Rohde and Schwarz. Yeah, and I see the applause coming here in the chat box. So you know the game already, audience. If there is anything that you'd like to know, please post it here in the chat box. Also, feedback for the team, that's highly appreciated. Please use the feedback form, select topic Rohde and Schwarz for this team, for example, and then just fill in the boxes so the team can advance based on your feedback. Until there's the first question coming in. For photographs and print media, we went through this with Photoshop over 20 years. How was that problem solved? What was it solved, and how is it different in these times? So is there, I guess it's the question is, is there a parallel between what we know from the past in Photoshop to the video and sound age?
Well, we of course had some benchmarking done during our space exploration, and the prototype we chose for the multimedia tools, they're intentionally built on like ideas that are already out there, but still we want to develop that further. So we actually try to use an idea which is not like completely developed yet, and try to build upon our our thoughts and just add on it.
Thank you. We got a nice comment just in the comment section saying, how can we be sure that this was a real presentation, not a fake presentation you just gave to us? So,
well, the thing is, you actually really can't. We even tried that in our work, and you can do fakes live. So I could just, for example, pose at Steve Jobs. That's something we actually did. Join the video call as Steve Jobs, as Elon Musk was another example. And you probably wouldn't be able to tell the difference as long as I'm quite good at imitating the way they speak.
All right.
But that's great. Critical reflecting and questioning is the first thing you should learn when
We
you're
already learned our lesson from your talk. Thank you very much. And please, Team Hyundai, please come on stage for your presentation. Thanks a lot, Team Rohde Schwarz.
Thank you so much.
Hey.
Hello, Henrik.
Hello.
So I already give you my my intro speech. So next on stage, we see a project provided by the automotive company Hyundai, and who doesn't know them? And the team that is working on this challenge, that accepted the challenge, is a joint team of the Hasselblad Institute in Potsdam and the Stanford University in the US, in California. So thank you very much, Team Hyundai, and please go ahead.
Thank you, Niels. So, hey, we are Team Hyundai, and our topic is car as a communication space. So this is our team, and our challenge is to create a system design to enhance the communication within, between, or around the vehicle. This challenge was given to us by our corporate partner, the Hyundai UX strategy team. We are thinking, for example, about future car UI, using cars as a workspace in the context of urban mobility concepts. From the project, they expect us to do a free exploration of the problem space and bring in an outsider's perspective and look a bit further into the future. So that's what we did. We started off with immersion and observation. And for example, we sat in 10 different cars and tried out the communication systems. Furthermore, we went through a lot of different drive-thrus and observed the people ordering. Finally, we conducted interviews with approximately 20 people. There we started off with taxi drivers who told us how their passengers behave, and car drivers who told us about how they communicate in cars. Then communication experts put this into perspective for us. And finally, we also wanted to see how people use cars when they drive autonomously. Therefore, we talked to people who travel very similarly to this already today, train commuters. From those interviews, we derived personas.
Based on our research, we now have two people that we wanted to meet. One group of people are business travelers, who we heard things like, there was a lawyer leaking real names and case numbers of clients, or I don't do phone calls in the train to not disturb people. Based on that, the needs of these users is to have a private space to be able to productively work and also to have privacy while being on the go. Another user group that was also based on our interviews is the driving parent. Those said, if I'm the driver, I mainly talk to the co-driver and not shout to the back seats, or my father tried to watch me in the back seat with an extra mirror when I was young. So the needs of those user group is to, on the one hand, communicate in an easy way in the car without having to shout, and on the other hand, to be able to see what is going on in the car. Based on those two personas, we developed 6 different prototypes. On the left, you can see the ones for the business traveler, on the right, the ones for the driving parent. We want to start with one for the business traveler, where we asked ourselves, how might we help business travelers to have calls while being on the go? The idea for that was creating a phone booth in a car, where technically it was important to create an isolated sound space, and emotionally, we wanted to enable people to have trust in the system. When testing that with 5 different people, we realized that when we had an outside sound source playing some music and people sitting in the phone booth, they weren't audible with a sound of 50 to 60 decibels outside. And that's also the main driving noise in cars. So it's technically working. But one other important factor is how the users feel inside. For that, we asked the users afterward. And what we heard were that they felt quite comfortable in that. They thought that it could be a nice working environment, and they really valued having this window in there that you can see on the right side, as this was important to kind of be able to not just sit in a quiet room. Afterward, we also wanted to have a prototype for driving parent. And for that, we asked ourselves, how might we enable passengers to feel like having an in-person conversation? And for that, on the technical side, it's really important to have audibility between rows, that people can really communicate in the car without shouting, referring back to what has been said. And on the other hand, to have in-person-like conversations. For testing that, we developed a system that has 2 speakers in the front and in the back of the car, and also 2 microphones, where people could talk to each other in the normal voice and just be audible on the other side of the car. That was tested with 4 different people, and the feedback from that is the following. We realized that soft-spoken individuals benefit from the system a lot because they are easier audible in the car and can have real conversations. Gestures and visual communication still felt a bit lacking, and people wish to have those in cars. Based on that, we built another prototype that will be presented now.
Yes, for this prototype, we ask ourselves the question, does it feel natural when talking to another person through a mirror? For that, we separated our 6 test persons with a wall so that they could not see each other directly, but they had the chance to see each other using a mirror. Interestingly, a lot of our test persons felt very different when using the prototypes. Some stated that it feels strange if sound comes from another direction than the voice, while other persons told us that the conversation feels natural and even is more fun than a normal conversation. Of course, we can not only use mirrors to communicate. Like we do right now, we can also use videos on screens and using cameras. We put a mobile phone in front of the car and a laptop in the back of the car, both connected with a video call. While driving, we felt it worked quite well, even though it would be great to see gestures. We try to do that using wide angle cameras in the future. Moreover, we found that motion sickness and lots of shaking while driving are important issues that we should tackle in the future as well. Coming now to the discussion, we would love to hear from you if you would go broad and look at other challenges around cars, or if you would stick with our presented ideas and even do further iterations on the prototypes. With that, we come to an end, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Team Hyundai. And you all know the game. Please post your questions as soon as possible so I can forward them to the team. So let me see. Sushi says, I believe BMW or maybe Volkswagen sponsored a project on in-car communication a few years ago, a sugar project actually, and they tried similar ideas, he said. I highly suggest you dig up their documentation and check it out. So maybe there's a chance for you to find inspiration from previous challenges that we had here in the network. Another question from Mariusz from Warsaw. Does communication also include communication between human beings and the car?
Yes, that's a good question. So communication between humans and cars is also included. So Hyundai really left it open on what we want to focus on. So we firstly explored, okay, what is out there? So is it human-to-human communication? Is it human-to-car communication? Or what is it? I started exploring different things. And what was most interesting to us were the fields that we explored yet, but we also looked into human-to-car communication, where we tried out, as Ben said, there's 10 different cars and tried how different car manufacturers solve the problems and how they cope with human-to-car communication.
Wonderful. Okay. And actually, I thought when I heard your presentation, I mean, the car industry is around for ages, and I guess, you know, communication inside cars, about cars, with cars, and so on. It's not a, you know, we are covering these topics for a couple of years already. So how challenging did you find it to find, say, a new spot that you can address?
Yes, so actually we found it quite challenging, and this was maybe one of the biggest assumptions that we had, that it was quite easy to find something, but then again, we found so much research conducted by automotive manufacturers on cars and on communication in cars, that it was actually quite hard to find spaces where not so much has been done already. So therefore we decided to go a bit broader and not look at incremental improvements of cars right now, but instead look at different needs of different users in different contexts.
Mm-hmm. All right. I would like to ask Team Nest to already go on stage, and then I have room for one final question to Team Hyundai. David asks, did you develop anything to the direction of car to outside world communication already?
No, that's the direction we think about right now, but there are no prototypes yet. But definitely an interesting field to look into.
Thank you very much, Team Hyundai, and all the best for you as well. And I'm looking forward to seeing you at the winter presentation.
Thank you.
Bye. So, and last but not least, definitely, we've got Team Nestlé on stage. And who doesn't know Nestlé? The Swiss Food and Beverages Processing Corporation from the beautiful village of Vevey at Lac Léman. Wonderful location, wonderful company, and I'm very curious to hear what your challenge is. And you're a team from the Hasselblad Institute in Potsdam and the University of Sao Paulo in Brazil. Welcome on stage, and we are listening to your story now. We're interested.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to our fall presentation. As you already said, we are the team Nestlé, and we're from the USP and the HPI. And today, Sebastian and me, Zoe, are going to present. So let's start with a question. I guess you all know Nestlé, but what do you think? How many brands belong to Nestlé? Just type in a number in the chat, make a guess, don't be shy. So Nestlé is the world's biggest beverage and food company. And I don't know if you guessed it right, but it has more than 2,000 brands, ranging from local icons to global brands. And saying that, they are also present in 187 different countries worldwide. So what is our challenge? Our challenge is how might we scale global innovation by leveraging digital experiences adapted to Nestlé global culture. But what does that mean in specific? We need to better understand how people currently work and collaborate across the globe. And therefore, in our first phase of the project, we focus a lot on communication and collaboration inside Nestlé.
Excuse me, Zoe, are you supposed to share slides with us?
Yes.
Because we can't see them. I'm sorry for interrupting.
Okay, sorry, I'm going to try it again. Yeah. Good that you said something. So let's see.
Now we can see it. Yeah.
Can you? Wow. Okay.
I'm sorry.
I just continue where I was. So this were the slide. This is our challenge. The challenge is how might we scale global innovation by leveraging digital experiences adapted to Nestlé global culture. And what does that mean in particular? We need to better understand how people currently work and collaborate across the globe. And therefore, in our first phase of the project, we focused a lot on communication and collaboration, but shifted our focus to innovation in the second phase. Because innovation is the key of our challenge, as we need to find a way to improve the innovation process and create new experiences that adapt to the current global state, but also to the culture and own language of Nestlé. Therefore, we did a second round of interviews, interviewing 15 people inside and outside Nestlé. Inside Nestlé, we interviewed the innovation, R&D, and IT department, and outside Nestlé, we interviewed people working in the field of innovation, for example, at Siemens or Lufthansa. We asked them, what is innovation for you? How would you define the term of innovation? And what are 3 key factors for successful innovation for you? Adding to those results, we did extensive research and had a lot of discussions within our team and came up with a framework of 5 ingredients of innovation. Those 5 ingredients are collaboration, structure, incentives, culture, and transparency. It has to be said that those 5 ingredients are not mutually exclusive, but they overlap and influence each other. Today, we are going to focus on collaboration, incentives, and transparency. Collaboration is a key ingredient for innovation as it connects the different ideas and parts of a project, and incentives are essential to encourage innovation, given that employees have to be willing to take large risks. Last but not least, transparency is the key to develop an environment of trust. But from our interviews, we didn't just came up with a framework, we also gained a lot of interesting insights. People were saying, it should be okay to fail in a project. Let's get lessons learned and pivot to something else. At the moment, failing is not really a subject at Nestlé. And we learned that principle of failing fast and celebrating what you've learned is an urgent need. Secondly, there's also a need for incentives as innovation motivators, especially in an online environment. And last but not least, a need for finding a dedicated team of diverse people with the right mindset. Therefore, we are designing for two different personas. The collaborative manager, who is an expert on innovation and needs to find a way to efficiently collaborate with engaged people across the globe, and the dedicated employee, who is not an expert on innovation, but wants to give his impact to the company and needs to find a way to adapt to the design thinking process, learn to fail fast, and reach his goals. And with that, I hand over to Sebastian.
So here you can see a short, quick introduction to some of the prototypes that we have done. You don't need to focus on trying to understand them now, but you can see by the color of the frames, how can they relate to our framework of ingredients of innovation. So now let's take a deeper look into one of these prototypes. This is Roll.me, automatically assigning meeting roles. And it came out of the question, how might we improve collaboration and engagement in innovation meetings? Especially now, considering the most recent global events, where there has been a huge shift into remote work, and most of the meetings, if not all, are happening through digital mediums. We prototyped this using emails, where everyone attending a meeting will receive an email beforehand and see what role they were assigned. As you can see on the right, the email contains some information regarding the meeting and also the roles that every person has. For example, the timekeeper, whose role is to help the meeting run on schedule by timing each of the participants according to the timings on the agenda, or the note taker, or the promise keeper, who keeps tracks of new things to be done and reminds everyone after. But the roles are not just organizational. They can be creative as well, and that will depend on the type of meeting. For a collaborative brainstorming session, people can get creative roles like the no-sayer, someone who will oppose and be negative about every idea. And you will also have the yes-sayer, who will always agree and add things on top to support others' ideas. And then you can also have someone focusing only on facts and data, or someone focusing only on emotions, or only on getting new ideas. So that's our prototype. And what is the goal? The goal is to have more structured meetings where everyone has some responsibility and therefore enhance participation. And actually, we have an hypothesis for this. People who are not leading the meeting are not engaged and often doing at the same time. We think that if each member has a certain role assigned, they have to stay engaged and focused. For this prototype, we were focusing mainly on the collaborative manager. And maybe you remember what she said. I need a way to efficiently collaborate with engaged people across the globe. So we think this prototype will make her happy. But it is not just limited to her. But as mentioned before, it can be adapted to any kind of meeting and therefore used by everyone at Nestlé. Last but not least, we have tested this prototype with our group during our meetings and also showed it in 2 other interviews this week, and we got positive feedback. People said that it's a really good idea to keep people engaged and that it makes the organizer of the meeting really happy because he doesn't have to do all the work. Now, let's see some of our next steps. We want to continue testing all of our prototypes to more people in Nestlé and do more interviews. And we also want to analyze a successful project at Nestlé and see how an idea turned into a successful project and compare all the phases of that project to our innovation framework. And we also have to build some new prototypes for the remaining ingredients of innovation. So that's it. Thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Team Nestlé, and a warm applause, please, for the team. I want to see the chat box rolling here. Yes, wonderful. So thank you. And also, if you've got any questions, please let us know. To you as Team Nestlé, thank you very much for presenting this. I mean, facilitating creativity, pretty much this is what our whole program and all of our partners here, what this is about. This is our key topic. So do you have anything as like a takeaway for us that we can, we can take home and start tomorrow?
Well, that's hard. We're still struggling with that in our team as well, but we are trying to improve our process and also improving our meetings and making them more efficient, but also fun. So we've been using our assigned meeting roles prototype as well. So if anybody is willing to test it, just send us a request in the chat and we will get back to you.
That's a good point. Use the audience. I mean, we have, again, 50, 60 people here in the room. And so if there's anything that the audience can be helpful for you, yeah, please, this is your chance.
Yeah, maybe also a question. We are still looking into benchmarking, and we did a lot of benchmark. We just didn't have the time to present it today as time is short. But if anybody has an idea of a company that already tackles this subject of innovation in a good way and could be inspirative for us, that would be a great help as well.
I have one final question to you before we need to move on. There's a question from Mariusz, and he's asking if there is anything Nestlé specific in your insights, findings, prototypes so far.
Yeah, so one of the insights that is very Nestlé specific is that the employees, they want to share failures, but at the moment it's hard to share it because it's really KPI driven. So we are trying to improve this process and make it a little bit more transparent and okay to fail. So we are still working on prototypes on this subject. And also something else that, well, Nestlé is huge, we all know that, and it's super complex. So they're trying to not work in silos, but sometimes they have the tendency to do it. Therefore, we are trying to find a solution that breaks up those silos and gets it easier to connect with people inside Nestlé.
Cool, thank you very much. And again, good luck for the rest of your project. And I'm looking forward to seeing you in March at the winter presentation.
Thank you.
And to the audience, first of all, thanks to all 5 teams here in this track. This was overall a great performance. I mean, all teams, wonderful performance, wonderful presentations, very interesting topics, actually. I also want to thank our chat facilitator, Carolyn, who did the best to keep you going and keep you giving comments and also filling in the feedback forms. In fact, feedback forms, you find the link to the feedback form pinned here in the chat box, at the top of the chat box. So please use it and provide feedback to any of the 5 teams that you just saw. You'll have the chance to give feedback for probably another 5 minutes or so, because we want to make sure that the teams get the feedback when they start their closed session in about 20-25 minutes. So you need to hurry up a little bit. With this, I would like to close this part, this track A, and I want to point you towards the networking tab on the left-hand side of your screen. It's already saying on now, so please go there. It's like, a speed dating way of meeting people that you probably have not met before. Also, after the networking, there will be the closed rooms for where you have the chance as liaisons to speak to your team individual, just in a family kind of setting. And you should have got or should have received links to your